It's the budget. And what does that mean? It means we're going to have lots of figures, lots of data. We're going to guide you through it all, though, including some important data. This is gross domestic product, the rate at which the economy is growing. These are the forecasts last time around. They'll probably have to be downgraded a little bit in the short run because, why? Well, we're in recession right now, but they might be upgraded off into the future. I'm afraid that's not necessarily because the economy is doing brilliantly right now. It's because you've got really strong population growth, mainly because of immigration, which pushes those bars up. Another chart that's worth just focusing on, this is the tax burden, as some people call it, the amount of taxes we have as a percentage of GDP going all the way back many decades. And if you look at that line, that's the latest projection, you can see it's getting up to the highest level since the aftermath of World War II, an extraordinary statistic there. And the Chancellor says he wants to bring the tax burden down, but he says he's hemmed in by headroom, by the amount of headroom he has. And it's worth just focusing on what is this headroom everyone's going on about? Well, it largely comes back down to the fact that the Chancellor's got 3 fiscal rules, and the most binding of them is that he needs to get the national debt falling. This is their current projection for the national debt, and you can see it's not falling immediately. In fact, it's higher in a few years than it is at the start. But that's the key thing about the rule. The rule says you need to get it down falling between year 4 and year 5. And is that happening? Well, zoom in. Yes, just about. Down from 93.2% of GDP to 92.8% of GDP. And the gap between those two things, that's fiscal headroom. But if you take that bar and kind of work out what that is in cash terms, that's about £13 billion. So when the Chancellor's saying, I've got this fiscal headroom to play with, it's because of that. But a couple of things to note. First of all, take the £13 billion. By historical standards, that's not an enormous amount of headroom versus the kind of rules that different chancellors have had. So there's that £13 billion. Sunak, Hammond, Osborne in the coalition, they tended to have more room to play with against their fiscal rules. But secondly, and broader point here, why is there so much focus on essentially what are forecasts? We're basing a lot of government policy on these lines here. This is the OBR forecasts over the years of national debt, and you can see they forecasts change a lot. They change an awful lot because, of course, the future is unpredictable. And if you look at the gap between the forecasts and what's actually happened, so take this, for instance, that average gap, the 5-year forecast horizon gap, going back the last few years, it's £415 billion. It's a staggering amount, raising the question, why are we basing so much decisions on investment, decisions on spending, decisions on tax on all of this? One of those questions we may have answered, along with many others, in the budget.